Hi, everyone. We are now on stage 4 of our journey to central nervous system regulation. So, if we have stuck with the journey this far, I mean, great things are already happening because in stage, even before we begin, so in stage 1, we really start setting the stage that whether you are a believer, or not, you're going to begin to take Psalm 23 as medication, as an antibiotic, and begin to meditate on healing scripture, both of which are resources that I give you. Um, it takes a real level of humility and a real level of desperation to say, I'm like the woman who is bleeding for years and years, spends all of her money on doctors, and only gets worse. To go, whatever I've tried thus far has not worked, and I'm going to try something new. And we've made a decision and a commitment to ourselves to not go on the internet looking for problems. There are problem-centered people who present as victims, and they really just join in fellowship with each other, commiserating. They're not interested in a solution, really. Even though they present as if they really don't want help and suggestions. Like when Jesus asked that man who was paralyzed, I think it was for 38 years, and he said, "Do you want to get well?" I mean, that is one of the most, if not the most important question there is. Like, do you really want to get well? Because I'm telling you exactly how to set the stage. And, I learned a long time ago in Alcoholics Anonymous that, it's not our identifying with each other that keeps us bonded. It's what keeps us bonded is that we have a solution upon which we can absolutely agree and join in brotherly and harmonious action. It's about unity. So it's not like take what you leave. That's nonsense. Take what you can use and leave the rest. No, 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 no. It's all or nothing. God either is or he isn't. It's very simple. So I am a believer, but you don't have to be a believer to start trying this way of life. um, you just have to be willing. You just have to be willing. So then we talked about candida yeast overgrowth, and how that manifests in our bodies. Some women get yeast infections. um, some people get thrush in their mouth. You could get athlete's foot. But for us, it has manifested in our intestines and our guts. We've had a yeast overgrowth. And this does not need to apply to somebody necessarily that has chemical sensitivity, or even wants to go all the way through the stages of regulating their central nervous system. Maybe they're just presenting with some symptoms like headaches, migraines, irritability, nausea. There's a myriad of symptoms. And I think about think about millennials, how they're called to be leaders. They're our next generation, and they're suffering with unexplained symptoms. And people run to the medical fraternity, which I go to great lengths to stay away from, because the medications they prescribed me actually harmed me all my life. I was scapegoated by the medical fraternity, really believing that something was wrong with me and that I was sick. So I will go off on tangents, I know, but I'm just trying to embed a little bit of my story into this as well. And okay, so we take the at-home spit test. That's another free resource I have for you. And then it lets you know if that is indeed what you have. And then it's a very, very simple protocol that you go on for a candida die-off. And after the candida die-off, you go on a diet. It's not really a diet, right? It's just like a way of life to keep the candida at bay. but we've decided we will cyclically every year we will do this, fasting, candida die off after the test, and again, maintenance. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. But we have also decided, and this is what I'm sharing again, is just exactly what I went through in my journey, of healing. When God, we are not meant to be sick, I was taught that, from the medical fraternity, and I was taught that again in a man-made fellowship, that I was sick. But nothing could be further from the truth. Jesus died so that we could be healed. With his stripes, we are healed. It's just about claiming his promises. So where was I? See, sometimes I just forget, because I'm just doing this impromptu. I just wanted to talk to you today. My son's coming over, and we're going to have a really nice visit, and I wanted to take the time to share. During the time that we are waiting, which actually builds strength, right? Because those who wait on the Lord will soar, on the wings of eagles, right? We're going to get stronger and stronger as we're waiting. And so as we're waiting for that candida die off, we are going to detox our environment. And this is an area I see so much resistance. And now resistance is good and should be embraced. And that's what I'm learning right now, because it's part of growth. But I see almost contempt prior to investigation, right? Like I saw a video of a young boy dumping gluten, preservative, disgusting, and the chemicals, and I just people it's like if I am ignorant, like if I don't understand the real danger of like Dawn dishwashing liquid and Pine Sol and bleach, if I don't understand that, that's one thing. But once somebody educates me, I am held responsible for that. I am then knowledge with knowingly harming my children. It's very, very sad. And like I said in another video, it is a challenge to not get bogged down, because if it weren't for the Lord, I would have fainted. If it weren't for my belief, I would not have been able to go forward if it were not for him. So we detox our environment. And we start feeling better, and then we start learning about chemical sensitivity. And this is where I'm going to start to talk about the next stage in our journey to central nervous system regulation. It's that this chemical sensitivity is directly related to childhood trauma. This is what God showed me. I am hyper sensitive being an adult child, and the smell and the hearing, the sensitivity to lights. It's almost like Asperger's syndrome in a way, very, very sensitive. And when the candida is overgrown, that sensitivity to smell increases, but even when the candida is gone, I had a woman, and this is why in the very beginning of setting the stage, I suggested strongly that everyone find a support group, whether it be a 12-step program or a counselor one-on-one, or a church group, something to lean on, besides just, yourself. And these groups where everyone just commiserates and they're problem centered and they're presenting as victims and not stepping back, because it's a blameless recovery. I can't blame the people who make the products, the people who use the products, the medical fraternity, my mom. I can't blame anyone. If I do, I'm not going to be able to get better. It's not my fault, but it's my responsibility, to take charge, of my life, with God's help. And I hope that really, really penetrates into your heart. I really, really hope it does, you know. So a woman helped me see that, like, this is the example I keep thinking that I'll share is like, say I would leave my apartment and I would walk down the stairs and I would have to walk through like four people smoking cigarettes. Okay, so we're back to body, mind, and spirit. Okay, though those cigarettes definitely affect the body. Secondhand smoke, third hand smoke, even fourth hand smoke. Secondhand smoke is more damaging to others than you smoking yourself. And as you smoke, the cigarette emits 7,000 pollutants, you know, many of which are toxic and carcinogens. They cause cancer. So yeah, it's going to hurt my body. So it was affecting me in body, but I became like a deer in the headlights. And I was unable to understand that their smoking cigarettes was also affecting me emotionally because the predators, the perpetrators in my life all smoked cigarettes. So I was affected in body and in mind. And so my spirit was almost deadened. The spirit in me couldn't rise up. So I started to understand that happens a lot with perfume because my main abuser wore perfume. I don't know even today how I would respond. Keyword respond, no longer a reactor, but I don't know how I would respond if I were to smell the specific perfume that she actually wore. Because did you see my face? I just saw it. I mean, I'm disgusted just even thinking about it. Ugh. So what happens, I have to, it's a critical inner voice to say, place blame outside of myself on society or the manufacturers or the people that wear the perfume or whatever. It's that's a critical inner parent, but I have to cultivate the loving parent, you know, and say to myself, I literally have to say to myself, Dawn, you have a mask on, like you're not going to get hurt walking through the smoke. It's okay. You're going to be okay. You don't have to stand there and breathe it in. You're not a child anymore. You don't have to breathe in secondhand smoke every second of your life. You no longer have to breathe in secondhand smoke, honey. You know, and you're not being molested and beaten and hurt and neglected and abandoned and abused and put down and cussed at and screamed at every second of the day, all of your life anymore. You know, I have to talk to myself, and that's just one example. So I was in this group that was supposed to be a support group for MCS, and it was the furthest thing from support I've found in my lifetime. It was, as I said, a bunch of people presenting as victims, blame, full of blame, and wanting to commiserate together. I didn't fit in. I don't fit in much because of my solution oriented. Well, I have not fit in much, but now I've found other people that are solution oriented. So I know I'm going through a transition, and that is the resistance that I am embracing at the moment. God is really helping me at this stage of my life to embrace that resistance. So I was talking to a woman in this group, and she was close to 60 years old already. And she was living with her mother. I thought that was a little odd. And then as I began to speak to her, hoping, always hoping to be talking about the solution, she began screaming and cussing at her mother. And I thought, if somebody were really sick, I mean, if they really were sick, they weren't just believing that lie that they're sick. If they really were sick, there's no way they'd have the energy to yell at somebody the way she was screaming at her mother. It's impossible. Because I even know, like in my case, when I would have a reaction to like that bar of soap I used for my son's back for his acne, or any kind of reaction that I would have at home, and irritability is my number one symptom. I feel the irritability, but what increases the irritability is I don't even have the energy to express that. I mean, I'm out of it, completely out of it. So I knew that didn't seem right. 60 years old, living with your mom and exerting tons of energy to abuse her. And then I realized right there's just like a moment of clarity. It's like, oh, MCS is directly related to childhood trauma. Like, she's living with her mom. It's called a trauma bond, and she's enmeshed with her mother. She can't separate the two. And this is how I learn things, by watching other people. I learn what not to do mostly. That's just the way I operate, the way that God made me. And I just started to understand, for me, each time, I would have an exposure, I would notice of how it feels in my body, and that there was trauma stored in my body. So I was just learning a lot about, yes, the real dangers of chemicals, and to keep them constantly away from me and practice avoidance. Like, I am not going to get, I get asked all the time to go out to eat, or to hang out, or do whatever. And people don't understand, like, that's not going to ever happen. Like, I can't even go to the park with another person because their clothes, the laundry detergent, you know, I, um, you just think, well, maybe somebody will want to hang out with me, and so they'll stop, but they have to do it for themselves. And I haven't met anybody that'll stop using fragrant laundry detergent, fragrant dryer sheets, fragrant deodorant, fragrant shampoo, fragrant body lotion. I mean, people just won't stop doing that. There's nobody that'll stop. Now they'll say, okay, I'm not going to put on fragrance, like I won't put on cologne or whatever, or perfume, but everything else smells. And they're not willing to change that. They're not willing to switch out their cleaning supplies. But on a daily basis, they are presenting as victims and suffering, and many people run to doctors and whatever. Um, so we set the stage. We checked to see if we did indeed have candida die-off, or a candida yeast overgrowth, I'm sorry. And then if we did, we followed a protocol to kill the candida. Easy peasy. And then we stayed on a nutritional plan that kept us free from the candida. It was like a maintenance. And then we detoxed our environment during the waiting, and we saw the damage chemicals can really do. We began to educate others. We are now at the stage where many people will drop off, because this is about starting at the beginning and following all the way through. And so many people will drop off at this point, because they'll start to condemn, they'll start to argue, and there is no argument. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. There is no argument. This is my experience that I'm sharing with other people, in the hopes of other people being willing to get to a place where they have central nervous system regulation, and they can begin to focus on their thinking. They can begin to follow Dr. Caroline Leaf. They can begin to understand, as a man thinketh, so he is. They can begin to see the lies that they believe for so long that have kept them in bondage. It's my mind. It's my mind that needs renewing. So this is about wholeness in body, mind, and spirit. And this stage four that we're on is to see or to accept, even if you don't fully understand, that chemical sensitivity is directly related to childhood trauma. There are men and women that have reached their 50s and 60s and still not been able to come out of denial until they're 50 or 60 years old about their childhood trauma. So it's not about understanding, it's just about accepting at this point that this is true for you. Thank you for listening. Blessings.